There are some great accessories for your Kamado Joe, but is the JoeTisserie one that you should pick up? Today, we're gonna find out. So almost a year ago to the day on Black Friday, I bought a JoeTisserie for my Kamado Joe Classic. And actually, I'm really glad I waited to do this review, because if I would have done it immediately after buying it, I'd say no dice, it didn't do it for me. But there's a reason for that, and that's just like there's a learning curve for a Kamado Joe. The very first few times you cook it might not have been your best effort. There's also a little bit of a learning curve with the JoeTisserie, and I accidentally sort of made a verdict too soon. Little did I know the potential that awaits when you give it another try and you actually adjust your approach. So that's what I'm gonna uncover today. We're going to cook some picanha head to head. One, I'm gonna sear on the soapstone and just eat it like a normal steak. And the other one, we're going to tackle picanha on the JoeTisserie. Now, why picanha? Well, there's a lot of things we already know are better on the JoeTisserie. If you saw my spatchcock versus JoeTisserie turkey video, I'll put a link down below if you haven't had a chance to check that out. The JoeTisserie won the blind taste test hands down. Leg of lamb, also much better, and there's many other things. Spiral ham, a lot of holiday dishes come out amazing on the JoeTisserie. So that's a slam dunk. But my nemesis using the JoeTisserie has been picanha. I've tried 2 other times and both didn't go so well. The first time I cooked it low and slow, and by the time that it was time to get ready to sear, I cranked the heat and I had way overcooked my steak. Plus, I made an accident or an error in how I cut my steak. Since I wanted to do it off the spit, I cut with the grain as you would normally, so that when you're cutting your steak at the table, you're then slicing against the grain. But when you're carving off the spit, this means that once again, you're cutting with the grain. And so the pieces just came out way too tough to enjoy. For my second attempt, we sliced it the right way so that we accommodated for the spit orientation. But once again, I didn't get the temperatures just right. I thought I'd wait till about 110 degrees internal temperature and then crank the heat. And it was so much fun to look at it and those juices dripping and the flames just kissing the outside of the picanha. But again, overcooked it. And so today, 3rd time's the charm, I hope. It's all about redemption for picanha, because I know so many other dishes come out hands down better. We're gonna see if we can do it with some picanha. So let's get started. Now, before we get started building our fire, by nature of having a second one for the Big Joe, something's obviously happened from my lack of enthusiasm for the JoeTisserie. And that's because we continued to give it a try, and we found there are some things that it absolutely, hands down, better. Leg of lamb, better. Shawarma, better. Al pastor, better. I did a video on that recently. I'll put a link down below. Turkey, I did a spatchcock versus a JoeTisserie. Again, blind taste test. Everyone picked the JoeTisserie turkey as a more flavorful, juicy, just presentation looked phenomenal. So I am actually really excited to add a JoeTisserie to the Big Joe, as I think there's even more exciting cooks that we could do for the channel. So that's not to say though, I'm not a little bit nervous about tackling public enemy number 1, which is, can we get picanha to come out even better than without the JoeTisserie? So that's what today's video is all about. Let's get this out of the box, start building our fire, as well as I'll show you how we're gonna set up on the Big Joe, including our side dishes. Okay, installation's pretty straightforward. We're just gonna go ahead and slide our JoeTisserie onto our gasket and line it up so it's about centered. And then when you close your dome like this, you'll see it just sits on top. The other thing that I've done is I've lowered the side shelf so that there's clearance for our power unit. And so what we'll do is we'll just slide that in and down like so. And then once we have that, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and insert our spit, which I like to do out of the JoeTisserie, and we'll have our clamps and start cooking our fire. So that's a really quick overview. It only takes about 30 seconds. Again, I'll reposition the camera and I'll show you exactly how we're gonna set up for today's cook, including our sides. Okay, to get started, I've got 2 pieces of peach wood for smoke and an empty charcoal basket. I'm just gonna go ahead and drop those down in on the bottom. And next I'm going to load up with some Jealous Devil charcoal. I'll do that fast forward and we'll be ready to start our fire. Okay, so as you can see, we've got about just a little bit more than a half basket, which is way more charcoal than what we'll need for today's cook. But one of the things that we like to do with picanha is be able to reposition that using our rake so we can control the heat. So that's why I've gone with that amount of charcoal. The next thing that I'm going to do is a little bit unique, since I also want to be able to sear the non-rotisserie steak, is I'm going to go ahead and install one of our grids right here on the firebox. And then I'm going to install my soapstone on top of that. I'm only putting the rack underneath for some extra support. And so what this is going to do is this is not only going to act as a little bit of a heat barrier, and so I can concentrate those flames towards the back, but it'll also give me a surface to cook some of our side dishes as well as the steak that we want to sear. So now I showed you how we're going to set up. I'll go ahead and pull these back out and we'll start a fire. Okay, today I'm going to use my Grill Blazers grill gun to get the fire going in a hurry. If you want to see more about this torch as well as some others that I use often on the channel, I'll put a link down below to my torches battle head to head. Definitely a video you want to check out if you haven't seen that yet. Okay, so let's go ahead and reinstall our soapstone. You notice I moved some of the extra coals towards the back, so again I have the option to rake them under the soapstone. And from a lighting perspective, I focused on the front area so that we're getting heat directly under the soapstone so it has time to heat up, and then those coals will continue to spread towards the back. Okay, so while our Big Joe is coming up to temperature, let me bring you up to speed on prep to get to this point. So for today's cook, I picked up a single picanha roast, the entire thing not sliced. And I brought it home from my butcher, and the first thing that we wanted to do is go ahead and start getting some salt on this. Since I'm not doing this 24 hours in advance, I didn't have time to salt dry brine, but if you do it at room temperature a couple hours ahead of when you cook, you can still get some of that salt deep into the meat. So what I did is I made some slices with the grain, because again, I'm not going to be slicing off of the spit today, as you may from a traditional restaurant if you were going out with some friends, if that's ever allowed again. But instead, I'm going to be serving them all the exact same way. Since we're doing one steak the regular way and two on the rotisserie, we'll just make sure that we slice them the exact same direction against the grain. So there's no difference between our control steak as well as our rotisserie steaks. The next thing that I wanted to get going is our sides. And so the first one, we're going to make some bacon Brussels sprouts. I'm a big fan of these. And so I just cooked up a few pieces of bacon, set that aside, as well as cut some Brussels sprouts in half and then toss them in the remaining bacon fat that we have before adding a little bit of salt and pepper. So I'm actually going to go ahead and get those on the grill shortly. We're going to put that right on the soapstone so they continue to cook. And if the measurements and everything lines up properly, we may even get a few drippings from our picanha to season our Brussels, and those will cook together. For our second side, I'm actually going to be doing some lemon garlic kale. I found this recipe following a friend on YouTube, The Silly Kitchen Cooking with Sylvia. She does an amazing job. And while I spend all my time worrying about how to master the mains, one thing I'm not really good at is the sides. And so if you're interested in adding some amazing sides to go with your barbecue game, I'll put a link down below to her channel, since that's where I'm learning some really awesome sides to go with our featured barbecue items.
Hey, it's Sylvia coming at you from the Silly Kitchen, where I absolutely love to cook and love to share my favorite recipes with you on my channel. Thank you, James, for the little plug in here. I know you love that little kale side dish that I did, and I love everything that you do on your channel. So keep doing what you're doing, and thanks. Cheers.
All right, let's get our Brussels on. We are throwing some heat now. So I'm going to start off as protected as possible and then move them over a little bit later once we want to collect some of those drippings. Okay, for our JoeTisserie spit, this is a brand new one, so I haven't added any notches or markings to know where center is. So you're going to want some gloves for this since we are now cooking over live fire, and that is throwing some heat. So to do that, I'm just going to go ahead, slide that in to position, see approximately where I want to bring these picanha. And since we're only doing 2 today, I'm going to try and bring them to about center. So I'll just go ahead and tighten this base one, which we can now remove. So when we insert the picanha on our spit, we know we're nice and centered where we want to be, and we don't have to handle raw meat and gloves later on when everything's really hot. Okay, let's go ahead and get our 2 picanha that we're gonna cook on the spit. And we'll do it again with our second picanha. Now we'll just go and slide on our second attachment here to tighten everything up. So that looks good. Let's go ahead and get that on the grill. Brussels sound good. Slide that on into position. Whoops. There we go. We're powered up. All right, let's take a look at how we're making out. Oh, our picanha looks awesome. I think our Brussels are done. They've been collecting those drippings. I think we are ready to pull off the Brussels, let those rest, and we're going to go ahead and get on our sample picanha, and then we'll make our kale. Okay, let's go ahead and add our second piece of picanha. Start letting that sear. So we are getting a great sear on our soapstone. Those fat drippings are coming off the picanha on the spit. Let's go ahead and check our internal temperatures. Still got a ways to go. About 95, 112. Okay, I think we're getting close. 124, 130 I saw there. Let's go ahead and get our rotisserie picanha off. So to do that, I'm just going to reach around here, turn off the rotisserie, take those off and set them aside to rest. And we'll finish up our soapstone control picanha here. Check that again. Another minute or so. All right, I think we're getting really close. This is a really small steak. So what I'm gonna do, I don't wanna overdo it. I'm gonna go ahead and get this off now that we've got some great color. The feel of it feels like medium rare like we like. I'll just go ahead and wrap that in foil and let it rest, and that should end up at the exact same spot as our 2 picanha steaks. Okay, while our picanha is resting, let's go ahead and finish up our kale. As I mentioned earlier, I installed the Kamado Joe wok on the X accessory ring in the top position, and we are over medium heat, about 350, 400 degrees. So I'm gonna start off, I'm gonna add 1 spoon of garlic as well as zest of lemon. Pardon me, zest of lemon. I'll just give that a minute or so. Don't wanna brown it. And then I've extracted the juice of the lemon that we used for zest and have that ready to add once we toss in our kale. Or add our washed and prepared kale. Add the lemon juice, some pepper and salt, using fresh cracked black pepper. A little diamond kosher crystal salt. And we'll stir that all in. And then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna use the cast iron Dutch oven lid that I have as a cover. And we are gonna let this steam in that lemon and garlic juice for about 2 minutes. Once we've got it all tossed in. So let's just cover that. act as a little steamer, and we'll give that about a minute, 2 minutes. All right, our bacon Brussels are done. Our control picanha on the soapstone. Our 2 rotisserie picanha, as well as our garlic and lemon kale. All right, let's go ahead and dig in for our taste test. I'm gonna start with a little bit of our lemon garlic kale. Get a couple of our bacon Brussels here. And let's slice into our 2 steaks. Start with our control. Perfect medium rare. Picanha here. And check that out. Oh guys, I think we got it. We got a nice medium rare on the picanha on the rotisserie as well. Let's go ahead and take a couple slices of that. Just take a picture so you can see close up what they look like. All right, let's dig in. So I'm gonna start with the soapstone steak, because that's always been our winner. So we'll set the bar high and then go to our rotisserie and see if it competes. So that's good. Definitely missing the salt dry brine. That's something we do all the time. And I'm noticing a little bit of lack of flavor on that steak. Let's go ahead and see if our JoeTisserie is any better. Just perfect on this. I'm excited. I am so excited. This has stymied me the previous attempts, and I think we finally nailed it. This is better. And the reason it's better, finish that chew. The reason it's better is what we're lacking a little bit of flavor from just that sear. The salt was the exact same. These were cut and salted at the same time, but the drippings and caramelization of the fire coming up after drippings had fallen into it seems to have added a depth of flavor I'm just not getting off of the soapstone. And the soapstone is hands down one of my favorite accessories for the Kamado Joe. If I was doing a tomahawk or something like that, hands down, that's how I'd like to sear it. But today, I think we have a new champion. We're sweeping the floor with the JoeTisserie now that we've given it a year of a learning curve. You have no idea how excited I am to finally get picanha on the rotisserie to come out like a charm. So what is it we did differently? So again, quick recap, we did not start low and slow. We just went with inferno mode right away. And that just happened to be about the perfect amount of time for a great Maillard reaction on the outside, as well as getting to the right internal temperature of doneness on the inside. As well, we threw a couple great sides today, and that's one of the advantages of the Big Joe is we can sneak in that soapstone, cook our Brussels sprouts. We didn't have to do the kale, it's a 2-minute cook out here, but I was doing some cast iron seasoning anyways, which is why I used the classic Joe. Otherwise, just go ahead and do that on the stovetop. But this is it. A year in, we have completely redeemed and changed my opinion on is the JoeTisserie worth it. I'm gonna go ahead and say hands down, yes. Shawarma, al pastor, lamb, chicken wings are really good on it. And now today, picanha joins that list of awesome cooks. And when I say awesome cooks, I'm not just looking for, is it as good and we're just cooking different? It's actually noticeably better. And that was hands down the case, especially with our turkey video that I did recently. Again, link below. If you're thinking about a Thanksgiving turkey or a holiday turkey, you'll definitely want to watch that head to head. Anyways, I hope you really enjoyed the video today. If you did, please let YouTube know by smashing that like button, and let me know by commenting and subscribing to catch future videos. Until then, I'm James from Smokin' Dad Barbecue signing off, and don't be afraid to fire it up.